Jim Jones raced out of the studio and straight into the lawyer's office, where he now faces divorce. His hands trembled, his eyes fell, and his voice shattered. Filed without warning, just war, since what began as a reality TV romance suddenly devolved into a DNA catastrophe. We're discussing a paternity test, so in addition to destroying hearts, the bomb destroyed group chats, broke contracts, and caused Mama Jones chuck furniture. And Chrissy Lampkin, well, she didn't deny it in 6 lines on a leaked court audio that made everyone on the internet yell, "I did what I had to, be forgiven. You sold wedding specials, created a ride or die business, and lied about a whole pregnancy, sis, all the while concealing a fact that maybe burned Dipset to the ground. But no, this isn't a hip-hop and love culture anymore. Rather, it's a scandal that Jim's group and the devil himself produced." So next, you won't believe it, let's examine what she signed, because this matter is still in its early stages and it was supposed to be just another court day, hearing over some old VH1 contract issues. Nothing significant, just paperwork and silence until Jim Jones entered. With a sealed envelope, his lawyer, no entourage, no television crew, and a look that said, "I'm done." As though it were just another Thursday, Chrissy was already seated at the table browsing through her phone, but when she looked up and noticed the envelope in his when she said, "Now that envelope," she was holding the findings of a DNA test. That literally would have set the courtroom on fire. After shouting, "I told y'all she was lying," and smashing over a display panel, Mama Jones had to be removed. According to court insiders, the letter contained a secret paternity test. Jim Jones had disappeared from view and was a quiet, cunning savage. Wasn't just for the child that Chrissy said was their little secret. It was also connected to a kid that she allegedly told Jim Jones about. Died in the womb, but the twist is that Jim Jones hasn't been the father of either child for years, and the second child is still alive and breathing on record. In the same fairy tale, Lampkin and Jim Jones were resolving issues and taking their time building an off-camera future, while she was allegedly paying clinic employees and maintaining a two-family falsehood behind closed doors by falsifying DNA data. The internet erupted in flames within seconds of the Mama Jones was correct when Chrissy Lampkin lied to her about receiving a free gym membership, but the real bomb dropped when she received a voicemail from Chrissy Lampkin. On a gossip site, a former publicist stated, and this is word for word, "Girl, if the second test comes back negative, you're preventing a man from finding out the truth about a baby in order to get one more check out of a reunion special." That's brand level, not emotional manipulation. Sabotage. However, it doesn't stop there. According to sources within Jim's legal team, they've found irregularities in translation of chronological documents. Chrissy Lampkin allegedly manipulated birth certificates and exploited old ultrasound footage to persuade Jim Jones that everything was real. Jim's close friend said he had always wondered why she wouldn't let him go to meetings, but Chrissy Lampkin's statements, such as "you stress me out too much and I want one thing that's just for me," were convincing, and Jim Jones trusted her. Let's face it, he's not the easiest man to love, but he never pretended to be devoted, so Wash was devastated to learn of this through voicemail leaks, lab results, and burner phone records. In fact, courtroom reporters said, "Jim, when the judge asked, 'Mr. Jones, do you wish to proceed with filing for legal separation based on this new information?' Jones was unable to even look at Chrissy Lampkin. Evidence? Chrissy Lampkin simply crossed without blinking, crying, or even moving in her position. Her arms folded, her knees crossed, and she spoke a single word that would always torment Jim Jones. What does that mean? It had nothing to do with the baby, but rather with survival. Even imply survival of what was reportedly a bogus relationship, reality show, or fantasy life based on fabricated test findings. The first time Chrissy pulled a practical joke like this was in 2011, when she had a pregnancy scare that was actually a part of a larger dispute with an unidentified VH1 employee claimed that as the numbers fell and Jim Jones was about to leave and Mona wanted something to do, she knew exactly when to drop the pregnancy card. You can't make this up, anchor the finale, but perhaps you can, given that Chrissy Lampkin reportedly did for years what, according to sources, truly destroyed Jim Jones. The embarrassment and feeling of being used as a prop in someone else's creation of a legacy that was predetermined against him weren't even the DNA lie. Due to a leaked photo, most court documents are now available to the public. It reveals that Jim Jones has requested the immediate dissolution of all joint business ventures, complete termination of reality show-related contracts, and psychological harm for deliberate dishonesty and reputational harm. He's not simply leaving her, he's erasing her. And just when you thought this circus couldn't get any more awful, a new figure entered the scene. Yes, the judge was handed the case by the former Cam's attorney. Before the court recessed, a sealed folder containing the words "additional footage" was presented, demonstrating that his brother, whom everyone had supposed was out of to begin with. The film, which court sources say was shot in 2018, depicts a paternity chronology in which the photograph had never left. The same weekend that Chrissy and Cameron were in Miami, she told Jim Jones that she was in Sedona on a wellness retreat. And yes, there was a hotel room involved. And a charge for 2 toothbrushes came up at the same time. Jim Jones didn't think so, and that's exactly where Chapter 2 begins. Chrissy's argument collapses in real time as a fresh witness comes forward during the court's viewing of the Cameron tape, because the DNA test was only the starting, but the rest is where the death comes. The courtroom lights dimmed a little when the projector appeared and everyone leaned in, including a blurry timestamp flashed on the screen of Judge's bench at 10:42 p.m. on August 14, 2018, in a hotel corridor in Miami. Chrissy, wearing a gray sweatshirt, was walking with her head down and her phone in her hand. She looked around and then knocked twice on it. When the door opened, Cameron was there, shirtless, smiling, and gasping. The entire courtroom suddenly changed, because this wasn't a coincidence. This was evidence that slammed doors shut and destroyed relationships. It wasn't just a casual encounter or an old friendship. The film shifted to a clip from a different angle showing Chrissy entering the room, taking off her hoodie to reveal a tank top and trousers, and leaning in, whispering something. Then the screen went silent, with no sound or graphic footage, but the damage had already been done. Jim Jones stayed motionless, staring straight ahead. Chrissy, unblinking and stone-faced, did not quiver when the judge asked if he wanted a respite. Her attorney promptly stood up and claimed that the movie was circumstantial and only established personal contact, and the court became irate when your client had only required a contradiction and a lie on the record to tell the court that she was in Sedona on this particular day. And just as the court was getting over, Cameron's lawyer assured them that "We're not done." He gave them another USB, this one containing, according to reports, a voice memo that was authorized by the court and purportedly taken from Chrissy's previous backup account. Played her voice slowly, icily, and purposefully for as long as one woman in the back row covered her mouth, saying, "I have power and I'm not giving it up until I know where I stand with Cameron," as Jim feels the child is his. Now that security was holding her chair, Mama Jones returned to the room and started crying once more, but this time it was quiet and fragmented, and Jim Jones simply closed his. Eventually, the judge wiped his throat and said, "Proceed." And oh, did they drop a? According to the second set of documents, bank records show that Chrissy Lampkin wired $7,000 to a private obgyn in New Jersey 2 weeks ago. Prior to the alleged miscarriage, she paid to retain a second copy of the private results processing translation test off the books. Jim's lawyer immediately sprang up. "Your Honor, at this time, we would like to formally request a motion to look into identity theft and pregnancy fraud." Chrissy Lampkin didn't blink, "But we also plan to present these facts to the district attorney's office regarding the paternity claims and concealment." For the first time, she appeared weak and human. And the judge nodded, noting that the evidence was accepted and moving on. And then came the unexpected turn of events when the court called a surprise witness, Witness C. Young, who was Chrissy's former assistant. "I managed Chrissy from 2017 to 2020. She came to the platform with a trembling voice, clutching her pocketbook, as if it held her soul. Did you observe any activity related to paternity fraud or public relations?" the court asked after she halted her personal communications and vacation social schedules. Deceit? Witness C glanced at Jim Jones before turning to face Chrissy, who confirmed that she had deleted conversations, "But she forced me to email Mona Scott staged pictures of herself wearing baby stuff before Jim got home, even though she wasn't." The courtroom erupted in gasps once more, including Chrissy's attorney, who appeared taken aback. Why had she requested those pictures to be sent? When the judge asked whether she needed promo-ready photos for the upcoming season, the assistant replied that she wanted to confirm the story. Before the reunion, Jim Jones looked at her with agony rather than anger, as though someone had just showed him a tomb. Line felt pity for her. The assistant acknowledged that she used to text Cameron from a burner, which I had to pick up, and the court approved the following. Was there any discussion concerning Cameron? She would say things like, Jim Jones is getting suspicious, or avoid answering until after midnight. She appeared to be living two lives because the courtroom was quiet once more, but bloggers were on the phone and not online, were up, and the hashtags Chrissy Lampkin burner phone Cherubal Life verified quickly became popular. Shark Jim deserved better, but Chrissy, simply as if that weren't enough, the court played one final audio recording for the audience. She sat there, her eyes nailed to the floor. No cries, no response. Chrissy Lampkin was off camera in this one, which was given to me by a love and hip-hop production assistant who said they had taken it during a backstage scene in 2022. You don't have to know everything, and a little mystery keeps guys in check. If he learns too much, he leaves, which is how they're all the same. Halfway through, the judge stopped the recording and looked over his glasses, saying nothing but shaking his head. The court was adjourned for the day, so Jim got up, went slowly away from Mom Jones, followed by Chrissy, who stood by herself as if realizing that the game had finally caught up, but the chaos had Jim's former business partners took the microphone to say, "There's more coming," as reporters gathered outside to give one last surprise. Emails, financial records, and a voicemail from a hip-hop and love producer revealed that the pregnancy story was proposed months prior to filming. Chrissy lied to America and Jim Jones, and now she is lying to every brand deal. Anger BH1 insiders are already spreading information about the re-examination of the produced ring on the finger moment and the interview. According to reports, Mona Scott is supposedly under pressure to reveal an edited film that could demonstrate the authenticity of the story, and production note stylists are coming out behind the whole pregnancy arc, and we haven't yet reached Chapter 3, where Chrissy's financial situation is ordered by the court after stolen emails make their way to the headlines, accounts, and a last betrayal destroys any chance of reconciliation. Because Jim Jones lost years of trust, Chrissy Lampkin arrived at court the following morning by herself, without a gloss squad, a producer in her ear, or entourage discussing strategy. Just her Largev media yelled her name, but she kept her head down and marched straight through security, wearing shades and a stillness that seemed heavier than anything she had ever worn. She knew what was going to happen at precisely 9:03 a.m., so she went to her seat and waited. The legal team for M. Jim arrived with an internal email exchange between Chrissy and a now fired VH1 official that controls Jim's story is displayed in a new exhibit. Instructions, narrative points, timing cues, and a comment from Chrissy at the bottom of one thread that caused the judge to raise an eyebrow was as follows: "Let's schedule the pregnancy scare for episode 3 so that I have time before I have to justify the cancellation of the Miami vacation." As the court queried, "Manon, could you confirm this? How are you communicating?" Even her own attorney appeared in disbelief. "Yes, Your Honor, I sent that," Chrissy responded after pausing. The courtroom did not swallow. Everyone had already seen the change. The shift was total. Chrissy was no longer merely a reality star. She was now the antagonist in her own series. Jim Jones remained silent and sat quietly, occasionally drinking water, as though the sadness had been resolved. This was simply business, but the moment a court technician wheeled in a screen for one more piece of evidence broke even his heart and confirmed that Chrissy E's time-stomped iCloud voice letter from a year ago was heard on the video speaking to someone on speaker. If Jim Jones ever discovers that Cameron is dead, which is why I said the baby was his, I needed to have faith in anything, and I wanted him to stay. There was no breath or murmur in the room until the spin-off was approved. Only Jim's lawyer's constant pressure could be heard. He got out of his chair and walked up to the bench. "Your Honor, we are offering this as conclusive evidence of deliberate emotional manipulation." And the judge of corporate fraud looked directly at Chrissy and nodded. "Do you deny the authenticity of this audio?" she asked. Gradually, and as the pieces began to come into place, Jim's team formally decided to suspend all joint accounts and assets while they conducted additional research, which the judge approved. Subsequently, it was disclosed that government auditors were starting to look into Chrissy's company's charitable contributions, and when the lawyer delivered her a lengthy subpoena packet, Chrissy didn't protest, avoid, or cry over the digital transactions linked to her brand that the court clerk had given her. Enough to shatter a windshield appeared worn out, as if a lady had finally recognized that the scheme she had written was now coming back to haunt her with court orders, evidence files, and bills that she was unable to remove. But it didn't stop there. The internet was available outside the courtroom while Chrissy's entire public image was deteriorating. Instagram accounts that had previously supported her were tearing apart her brand like a pack of wolves and changing the captions. Chrissy's team Chrissy tricked us all, and talk was overflowing with side-by-side comparisons of videos in which Chrissy seemed to be upset about the pregnancy. The most peculiar part was a leaked internal VH1 conversation that showed producers laughing, even if the actual timing told a different story. She made a promise that hit like a punch regarding pregnancy arcs, had a baby, and gave us ratings. That's the exchange. Therefore, this was not only betrayal but also a production-wide performance intended to support false beliefs and was funded with emotional capital that Jim Jones refused to spend. And when the judge finally turned to face him, asking, "What else would you like to say before we conclude today's hearing?" "I just want peace. I don't want revenge," he said, getting up and moving to the middle of the room after taking a long breath. "Want my time back. I want my tale portrayed correctly." He left after saying that. Just a guy, no drama, no look back, running from the wreckage of a life that was though Chrissy Lampkin was never genuine, completed yet. As soon as the court concluded, she, the same publicist who left the voicemail, according to sources, a statement on Chrissy spoke on her behalf, admits she was emotionally harmed, attempting to avoid watching TV and focus on privately rebuilding.